Hey everyone, welcome back to the second part of our three-part series all about how to get faster with your running.
Yeah, we're super excited. So last session, we obviously talked through different sessions you can do to get fast. Today, we're talking everything technique. Um, it's obviously not crazy different from the major technique points that we've spoken to in some of our other webinars, but there are a bunch of things you can do to really get as fast as possible. So we thought we'd chat through that today, as well as what drills and technique work you can do to really work on your running form and getting faster.
Yeah, and then next week we'll talk all about other strength and conditioning exercises you can do as well.
And then you'll be so fast, just like that. So there's a couple of things to think about if you're trying to go really, really fast as opposed to running maybe a 10K, and obviously you're conserving a bit more energy. So the first one is that you've probably noticed with all track runners that you pretty much ever see, as well as marathon runners who are at elite level, is their knees lift quite high as they run. So as you can see, these are just two examples. Amazing runners if you're looking for inspiration. Allyson Felix at the top, David Rudisha at the bottom. Impeccable form. So if you're ever wondering what you should look like, highly recommend looking these two up. But you can see their knees are sort of just below that parallel. And I know David's running an 800 meters. I'm not sure what Allison's running here. So even for those distances, the knees are really, really high. As we all know, the ways to run faster are either you take more steps per minute or you cover more ground with each step that you take. So the idea with the high knee lift is that it allows you to travel further with each step and therefore cover more ground, therefore you run more quickly. The other point here is that sometimes it can feel like you're almost pulling up from the floor. Just another cue that might help. Different cues help different people, but that's one that's worked with a lot of runners before.
Yeah, I use that cue a lot. Telling people to imagine they're lifting up from the floor rather than pushing away. Because, yeah, as you said, there's only two ways to run faster. Either take more steps or cover more distance with each step. And you want to cover as much distance as you can through the air so that you're not overstriding, but your stride length is still increased, which is a bit confusing to get your head around. But basically it means that you're going to travel further through the air with each stride, but you're not going to overstep or land with your foot too far out in front of you.
Definitely. And I think that's such a good point to make, because a lot of people hear, oh, cool, we cover more ground with each step, and they try to stretch out really far. But overstriding is the absolute worst thing you can do. So it's not the point about it. It's about high knee lift and create more power with every push off so that you still land underneath your body, but you just travel further in the air.
Exactly.
Which leads well to the next point. Turn your legs over really quickly. So it sounds simple, but it actually takes a lot of practice to get your body to move your legs over at a higher turnover than what you used to. So I know a lot of people, when we've been doing some of our cadence work, we've been working to sort of that 170, 180 range. And it feels really, really quick for a lot of people because we fall into the trap of having quite slow turnover and sometimes overstriding a little bit. So working on leg turnover is just another thing to practice and get your body into knowing what it feels like. So quite often sprinters will have a cadence much higher than longer distance runners, up around that sort of 200 steps per minute. Quite simply, they're just trying to get more steps in to cover more ground again. So if you can find the sweet spot, depending obviously what event you are running, for most of us, it will be in that sort of 170 to 180 range. But yes, leg turnover is another important point. The next one. Oh, sorry, Mike.
Let me speak for a sec. The next one, arm swing. So basically, emphasizing arm swing and having a really big arm swing will just help propel you further with your legs. Really focusing on the pullback and pulling the elbow back, and then also lifting the arms up higher. So when you're running longer distances, you might only bring the arm up to chest level, But as you go faster, you're going to want to have more arm drive. So you will bring it up to chin or even eye level.
Yeah, exactly. And you might even notice that if you hit a surge in the race, or if you're pushing to the finish line, or going uphill is the other one, you'll probably start to use your arms more in those moments when you're trying to get that just extra little bit of drive. I think going uphill is a really easy example of when you should definitely be using your arms more. And yeah, I always think that strong drive with the elbows back, it really helps to propel you forward.
Yeah. And then the final one is you should be landing more on your midfoot or your forefoot as you go faster. So you will naturally get off your heel, just because if you're heel striking, you're spending more time with your foot on the ground, which is taking away from the time that you could be spending in the air, and you're going to travel a lot faster through the air than you are in contact with the floor. So as you go faster, you want to move more towards a midfoot or a forefoot strike, just so that you're minimizing time on the ground, and you're also minimizing the braking impulse of heel striking as well.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've ever looked at a pair of spikes that the track runners always wear, you'll notice that the spikes are only in the front half of the shoe, and it's for that reason exactly, because they're only actually landing on their forefoot. Yeah. So that's where the spikes are. So yeah, a fun little fact about spikes. So to sum all that up, basically, cover more ground. So high knee lift is probably the important one to remember there. Turn your legs over quickly, use your arms, and you'll probably naturally drift towards more forefoot landing, but we've put it there anyway.
Yeah. But some people, I think maybe they do have to practice that.
Definitely.
And if you're finding it really hard getting up onto your midfoot or your forefoot, then probably you need to be doing some more calf strengthening, because it may just be that you don't have adequate calf strength to actually support your weight in those postures. So you just keep falling back into a heel strike. So if you are having a hard time moving towards more of a midfoot or a forefoot strike as you go faster, more foot strengthening and more calf strengthening.
Yep, definitely. And if you haven't done much speed work before and you do have weaker calves, that's probably the thing which will really hurt the next day. So that's probably a good sign as well, that exactly as Mike said, to work on your calf strength.
Yeah. Okay, just some drills that you could be working on to help improve all those technique points. So the easiest way is to go to our YouTube channel and look at Runners Playground, and they'll all be there. And you'll see that they're always incorporated into the training for the week. And so you will be familiar with most of these already, but these are the ones that specifically will help you work on getting faster.
Yeah, and that's always why we include them in just after sort of your warm-up jog of the session, is just by spending 5-10 minutes each time you do a quality run session by practicing these drills and practicing good running technique. It adds up so much over time. So it's little by little, you've become such a much better runner. So definitely be sure to check that section in What Up To, so you're getting those drills in. Do you want to chat through the first couple?
Okay, so we got fast feet. The whole idea being the faster you can turn your legs over, the faster you're going to run. I remember when I used to do 400-meter distances, it was all about how quickly you could get the foot off the floor. So that was a lot of the cueing that I used to get. So this is a great way to work on that. And I suppose another thing which we haven't really touched on that I suppose, Kate, a lot of like sprint coaches and middle distance coaches cue is the foot up.
Yeah, definitely.
Which again can just help everything feel like it's being pulled up. So you're not pointing down to the floor or running down into the ground, but you're pointing your foot up, and that way you're constantly lifting. So yeah, that's fast feet. High knees, this is a great way to work on that knee drive and that foot up position and being nice and tall and using your arms. A skips, which is a high knee drive but more dynamic. So you can begin to incorporate all these technique areas into something a bit faster and more dynamic. C skips I really like because it works, on that trail leg.
I think it's important to note with the C skip as well, it's not a bum kick. So a lot of people see this one and they just sort of kick their bum. But we are working on that, the follow through of the trailing leg and sort of getting more heel to bum rather than kicking our sort of backside, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, because you want to drive forwards. You don't want to just drive the foot to the butt, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. You want to talk through the last ones?
Yeah, for sure. The next one. So the jog with the one knee quick cycle. I love this one. It's really good for isolating just one cycle at a time, really working on getting it really good form, really quick, but also that high knee drive again on this one. Seated arm swings. Obviously, it's great for working on arm technique. So this one here is when we do just about 10 seconds really slow and then 20 seconds fast. So we're just practicing driving the elbows back and pulling the hand forward to sort of nose or eye line on that one. Sometimes good to do before your hill sessions too. The next one is something I like to do with people that tend to cross their arms over their midline. So obviously if you're doing that, you're wasting a lot of energy. It's just not efficient. So if you're holding something, imagine you're holding a relay baton or a stick, even anything that's a straight line, essentially, you can actually see in front of your face the direction of the stick that it's crossing your body. So it's just a really good visual cue to be able to see what you're doing with your arms, because sometimes it can be hard to tell unless someone's filming you. So definitely recommend doing that if you're not sure what you're doing with your arms. The slow march. So it looks simple, but this one's so hard to do properly because it requires so much stability, so much control to do it slowly. And the point on this one is to do it really, really slowly. Pause for a second at the top and then move the next leg. Pause for a second at the top. And it's really hard. Again, this is a great one to focus on what Mike was saying with the toes pointing up on your feet, and pause with your knee quite high on this one too. And then finally we have high skips. So the point of this one is it's great for working on the knee drive, because obviously as you're pushing high off the ground, you're driving your knee high and your opposite arm back to help get the height off the ground. But it's also great for working on that power off the ground. As we know, if you get more power off the ground, you lift your knees high, you'll travel further. So it's almost a more extreme version of the high knees in that sense. Similar ones you can do to sort of work on power off the ground are also things like bounding. We didn't include those in here because it can be, without someone watching, it can be really easy to overstride if you're bounding. And it's not quite what we're going for. So high skips is definitely a really good one for working on the power off the ground. Anything else to add to any of these ones?
I also think skipping is a great way to work on all of these things as well, like with the skipping rope, working on fast feet and the elasticity of, because a lot of the speed comes from harnessing your elastic energy. So basically every time your foot hits the ground, you're storing that energy from the grounds, and your tendons and muscles are like rubber bands that go under stretch and that are loaded to explode. So a lot of the speed comes from the ability to return that energy back really quickly and really powerfully. So you're not having to produce new energy with your bigger hip muscles and things. So I think skipping is a really, really great way to work on that.
Yeah, definitely. Good for calf strengthening too.
Yeah. And I suppose, do we have any more slides or is that it?
There's one which says exactly that, skipping. Great.
Yeah, skipping, and then that's just this. I think this picture, I liked this picture because she just demonstrated that the really high knee drive, the foot coming up, the really big arm swing, all those sorts of things. I think this is also an important one where we can talk a bit about like static stretching before, being really counterproductive to speed work, because we shouldn't really be doing static stretching before training anyway.
And just to explain to people, if you don't know, static stretching is just when you hold a stretch in one position and you're not moving.
Yes. Yeah. And basically the idea of static stretching is that you cause micro trauma to the muscle and micro tears to happen in the muscle, so that when the muscle repairs, it repairs back longer. So you gain flexibility that way, which is a big no-no before exercise because it increases your risk of injury. And a big no-no before speed work, because not only does it increase your risk of injury, but also you're actually stealing a lot of the what they call the limb stiffness, which is really important for being fast.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, be really
Having
careful
said
of
that, dynamic stretching can be very useful. So avoid static. Dynamic's great. So dynamic, obviously, as it sounds, moving. So it's things like you're walking, pulling your knee to chest, you're in a lunge position, sort of rocking your body weight forwards and backwards, you're bounding on the one leg and you reach forward, sort of stretch your hamstring, all those types of things.
Yeah.
So leg swings is another obvious one. Body's moving. Great. Not static beforehand.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think probably the last point that I'd hammer home and be annoying is just really spend those 5-10 minutes practicing your drills, because I promise you it makes a huge difference over time. If you think you look silly, you don't. No one ever judges you for it. It's fine. If you're not sure what you're doing and you want some feedback, definitely take a video, send it in. We can provide feedback. Very, very happy to. Love doing that. And if you're not sure why you're doing a certain drill, let us know, because we don't put them in there just because we think, because they all have a purpose. So if you want to know, there is normally a description there in the YouTube channel of why you're doing it and technique pointers, but send us a message.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Mike?
No, not really.
Oh, easy.
The only thing, but it sort of more fits into more last week. Like, if you're not getting faster and you're doing all the training, maybe have a look at your training plan, make sure that you are doing enough quality sessions. And I think, back to your point that you're including these drills, so you're actually working on how to get faster.
Definitely.
And the technique of it, because it is a technique.
Yeah, absolutely. Running's a very, very complicated movement. Awesome. Oh, well, we'll chat to you next time on part 3, which is going to be the strength training side of things for building speed.